Hello guys, this is your friend What If Naruto, and story title is What If God Like Naruto Build Harem with Fem Jashin, Bashing Part 2. Don't forget like, subscribe and share. Now let's start story. Silence. Pure utter silence was the only thing that could be heard in the office of the Sandaime Hokage as the two elders present, Kakashi, Anko and Hiruzen Sarutobi himself were stunned to complete silence, as if they were all in a near-death state of a short while trying to process what they just heard from the gray-haired loli before them known as Jashin, the goddess of destruction who claims Naruto as her master in any form of the word. For the past 30 minutes, Jashin explained what she told Naruto about her clan from where they originated, her father sending her to this planet to plant the seed of the holy tree that bears the fruit that has chakra, her mother Kagaya eating the fruit to stop the wars that tore the world apart, then her mother giving birth to her two brothers, with one of them being the mythical sage of the sixth paths, with Kagaya hiding her existence from her brothers for reasons Jashin herself didn't know of. She even told them about Kagaya being infected by the holy tree's corruption, then placing her, Jashin, inside a glass container, burying and hiding her in the temple that now belongs to Naruto before she was consumed by the holy tree's corruption and transformed into the progenitor of the Biju known as the Ten Tails. After a full 2 minutes of silence, Anko was the first one to speak as she said, "Su, what does this have to do with Naruto?" Jashin turned to the purple-haired Tokubetsu Junin and answered, "Simple. When my father died, he wished for his power to live on and be obtained before anyone of my cousins, sisters or uncles could get it all for themselves and use it for their own selfish reasons. In order for that to happen, he and my mother decided that if the both of them were to either be sealed away, defeated or lost in the vast cosmos, someone would find me in a deep sleep and awaken me, as that very person who awakens me from my sleep will be the person to tame me, take care of me, and I would gift that person who would become my master or mistress with the power of my father, as my mother would watch over and protect the said person from anyone who tries to harm him or her before he or she would finally know how to use the power of my father to its best. My mother is still very much alive, as is she right there, watching over Nato-sama as we speak." Jashin pointed to the moon, causing everyone to first look at the moon then back at her, with Kakashi saying, "And how did she get inside the moon?" It was Naruto this time who answered, "Well, during the fight Kagaya-sama had with Hamura and the Rakudo Sennin, the two brothers knew that the only way for them to defeat their mother was to have her sealed inside one of them, or rather Hagoromo in this case. When the battle was won, the Rakudo Sennin became the first Jinchuriki, as he had Kagaya-sama's chakra sealed inside of him. With the power he gained from that, he created a technique called Ninshu, which allowed the user of the said technique to share and connect with everyone around him, allowing everyone to have a mutual understanding for each other, and have the said chakra of the person using the technique. After about 80 years of living with Kagaya-sama sealed inside of him, he was finally at his deathbed and decided to create what we now call the moon through the use of a Rinnegan technique called the Chibaku Tensai. With this, he unsealed Kagaya-sama from the seal, then separated her chakra into 9 separated pieces we now call the 9 Biju, then sealed Kagaya Otsutsuki into the very moon he created," said Homura, getting a nod from Naruto and Jashin. Anko made a dry chuckle and said, "Hold on a minute here. Do you really expect us all to believe that you are a god, and so is Naruto, from you giving him the power of your father, who could possibly be the kami of all deities in the cosmos? Really?" Jashin looked into Anko's pupilless round brown eyes, with her surla still having the small but visible blood vessels surrounding her pupilless red iris, then sighed tiredly while her shoulders slumped down as she asked, "What will take for you to believe every word I just said, Anko-sama?" "Huh? Why are you calling me Sama?" was what Anko asked with a look of confusion on her face, to which Jashin smiled warmly with eye smiles as she responded, "Because you are Naruto-sama's surrogate mother and personal love interest. Therefore, the people Naruto-sama acknowledges as his precious people are my superiors." Anko was completely baffled at the answer she received, but more at Naruto having a crush on her, and looked at the blonde who smiled at her, but sneaked a hand into Jashin's dress to pinch her on the left butt cheek for spilling out such sensitive information, and said to her, "Like I said, I'm not a person of secrets, Anko-san. I was planning on telling you about it, but I just didn't feel ready about telling you, and I didn't want you to see me as the guys who keep trying to dive into your pants all the time. Quote. Naruto, said Anko as she looked at Naruto with a softened expression, but looked back at Jashin and said, well, if you are who say you are then, make Koharu-san 40 years younger. Smirks. I will not admit such an old feeble rumor, Mitarashi, said a stuttering and blushing Koharu. Jashin did a thinking pose with the index finger of her right hand tapping her chin, then shrugged her shoulders as she said, okay, fine then. Normally I would charge a god-awful price for such a request, but since it's a dare to prove I am a deity, I can do it. Would you like to be 40 years younger, Koharu-chan? Koharu froze at the question and the attention being on her, but couldn't help but flash back to her years of being young and full of life and being able to go on missions and enjoy the thrill of protecting Konohagakure from its many enemies while fighting for her life and others instead of just sitting around all day and talking about what is in the best interest of the village and telling her fellow teammate Hiruzen Sarutobi what to do all the time, since that is what came with the occupation of being a village advisor. She would have continued her little trip down memory lane but was stopped by Jashin, who spoke with an annoyed look on her face. We don't have all day here, little granny. You wanna be a hot young woman again, or? I would like to be young again. Jashin-sama. But if I may ask, will there be any side effects to retrieving my youth? Quote. Naruto first looked at the female village elder before him for a second, and could tell that being offered her youth back must have been something she has been dreaming of by the pleased look on her face and the desperation and happiness in her eyes. Then he looked over to Jashin to see that she was actually hiding something from that wink she gave him. Ah, nah, I don't like that wink. I feel like my life is about to be more chaotic than it will already be when she gives me that wink. With slight hesitation, Naruto created a medium-sized glass cup with his left hand as the kanji for yin on his hand flashed, then handed it to Jashin, who looked into the cup, then formed her lips into a small circle. In a split second, clear glistening white water came out her mouth like a tap pouring water into a cup, and filled up the glass cup, causing the people in the room to look on in shock and awe at what Jashin is doing. Yep, there's no doubt about it now. Everything she said is true. But let's see if that water really is gonna work first before I can jump into conclusions, was what Anko thought of before she looked over to Naruto and thought to herself, I need to talk to him when all of this done. I really do. When the cup was filled, Jashin walked up to Koharu and handed her the cup, then said, drink up. And don't spill a drop of it. Once you do that, the carpet will be infected and anyone who steps on this floor will be a 21-year-old adult, or 2-year-old baby depending on who it is, at the cost of your mistake. Koharu looked at the cup for a brief 6 seconds, then looking at Homura, who gave her a reassuring smile, with Hiruzen sitting at the edge of his seat with his cage hat off his head showing his look of anticipation. Sigh, I somehow feel an inch of hope growing inside me about this. I hope this will really work for me. She opened her mouth and slowly drank the contents of the cup while moaning at the sudden burst of extreme taste hitting her tongue, as the water tasted like drinking the oldest wine during a hot summer day, with ice cubes giving the wine a fresh and enriching flavor. While she was drinking the water, her entire being was enveloped by a white light, blinding everyone in the room besides Kakashi, who closed his normal eye and opened his Sharingan eye to see what was happening to the village elder, along with Naruto and Jashin, who looked on at the spectacle that was taking place before them. Once Koharu drank up all the water and swallowed, the white light vanished from her form after a brief 2 seconds, revealing her body to have now undergo a complete change. Instead of the long gray kimono held by Onobi with a jacket and sash over it, Koharu was now wearing no shoes, exposing her clean feet for all to see. I do not have a foot fetish, if some of you are thinking that. With a long gray skirt that reached past her knees showing the bottom half of her smooth long legs, and also wore a sleeveless gray shirt that was cut short over her now fully developed mid-C cup, exposing her flat stomach and cute belly button with her marvelous hips, giving her the figure of a supermodel. Her skin no longer had wrinkles or any proof of old age, with her face being heart-shaped, losing all the sagging of her cheeks, with her lips being smaller and more refined than before, with her eyes being a metallic dark black as her hair turned from its old gray color to a beautiful dark raven black, being pulled back in a twin bun locked by a traditional Japanese hairpin with two red pearls dangling on the side, and she has fringes of her hair covering her forehead and diamond studs for earrings on both ears. If you guys have watched the anime and saw how she looks like when she was young, you will have to agree with me that this is a good idea. If you haven't, check out her Naruto wiki and you'll see why. After all, this is fanfiction, right? I can do what I want with the characters, right? Right. These were the following reactions to Koharu being 40 years younger, looking absolutely stunning. Kakashi. Eye widening while thinking of telling a certain novelist that the star of Ika Ika, World War Naughty, is back. Homura. Turns pale white with shock while having a minor heart attack. Hiruzen. Same as Hamura, but wishes for his sensei Tobirama to see his sister figure back to her glorious beauty. Naruto helped her to see herself by raising his left hand to her and creating a mirror of her height, and the raven-haired village elder, or should I say youngster, eye widened as she raised her hands to her face to feel her fresh wrinkle-free cheeks, open her eyelids wide to see no bags underneath her eyes, then her hands reached down for her sizable bust that was held by a gray lacy bra. Oh my. This. I can't even think of what to say. This is most unbelievable, said Koharu. Jashin smirked as she walked up to Koharu and said, and the best part about my water is. Jashin grabbed Koharu's left hand and bit off a piece of skin hard, causing the now young Korahu to blood furiously at the open wound. Homura was shocked at this, but was even more shocked at seeing his former teammate not even flinching in pain at having the skin bitten of her hand, then looked to see the wound closing itself up in a quick matter of seconds. You have a healing factor and you feel no pain since your pain nerve receptors are completely dead. This ability was actually a gift given to me by my youngest niece, the goddess of youth and age, on my 10th million birthday. Mind you, it is a little too disgusting and the taste feels horrible to me. It made me a lot of pocket money back in the days of my Ka-sama ruling the world with an iron fist before she had Hamura and Hagoromo. Before Koharu could even thank Jashin, the gray-haired loli gave her a serious expression while saying, about the cost. I lied. From this very moment you will be living with Naruto-sama at the temple, and you are now one of his official servants whether you like it or not. For drinking my water, that is the cost. Homaru and Hiruzen were about to argue with the goddess of blood and destruction, saying that she should rather give their former teammate her age back instead of tricking her into slavery, while slowly focusing their killer intent on the said gray-haired loli. But they soon kept quiet and flinched at the heavy glare Koharu gave them while a single tear drop came down her right eye. Koharu closed her eyes for a moment, then opened them again as she gave about a jashin while holding the wrist of her left hand with her right hand, giving a stoic but stern expression as she said, I accept the terms for regaining my youth, Jashin-sama. From this day on, I, Koharu Utatane, will be a loyal servant and personal guard to Uzumaki Naruto-sama, as I will step down from my possession as one of the advisors of Konohagakure no Sato and retake my position as an elite junin of Konohagakure no Sato in order to be of great use for his safety as well as mine and everyone else he considers dear to him. I will soon get the papers in order to make it official, and hand them over to young Master Naruto once I have signed them. In the back, Naruto face-palmed himself and hit his head on the wall multiple times while saying, I should have seen this coming. I should have seen this coming. Ko, are you sure you want to agree to this? Said Homura with a worried expression planted on his face. Koharu gave her former teammate and fellow advisor a stern gaze as she replied, I have never been sure of anything in my life before, Homura. While this is unplanned for, I will not turn away from such a gift given to me. And we both know that I myself had long promised to be a part of young Master Naruto's life before they passed one. I was completely hung over with anger and self-loathing that I forgot to realize the promise I was supposed to keep when Naruto-sama's parents passed on. That and my growing hatred for the Uchiha clan and the Kyuubi blinded me from my duty as an advisor to decide what's best for young Master Naruto instead of mindlessly supporting Danzo and the civilian council at every decision they presented a problem with. Homura, Hiruzen, I ask of the both of you to please let me take up this decision, as this should be my eternal punishment for being so blinded by grief, hatred and self-loathing over the years of losing Tobirama-sensei, along with young Master Naruto's parents, but mostly his father. By the time she was done talking, her stern expression softened a little as tears were now flowing down her soft and wrinkle-free cheeks, and both Homura and Hiruzen were not faring any better as they too began to weep at Kaharu's confession. Anko was also shedding tears of her own at remembering her late sensei still pregnant with Naruto, then looked over to the blonde who was sporting a look of confusion but also a softened one with a small smile, and walked up to him as she hugged him from behind, causing the blonde Uzumaki to look up and say, "Anko-san, are you crying?" "No," sobs I. "Just have something in my eyes, that's all." "Oh okay. Then why is she hugging me in the first place?" Kakashi, who was now watching the whole spectacle, shook his head while smiling under his mask as he thought to himself, "Note to self, Matt, didn't I already make that note? Sigh, I hope you're watching Rin, Minato-sensei, Kushina-sama." Obito. After a full minute of tears being openly shed, Kaharu, Homura and Hiruzen had all wiped away the tears, with Hiruzen now putting his hat back on and said, "Sigh, what has been said here by Naruto-kun and Jashin-sama will as of now be a SSS-ranked secret. This information will never leave this room, nor will anyone ever speak of this even at the mercy of our lives being taken. As for Naruto-kun's abilities, I will hold a meeting addressing Naruto-kun's heritage and true inheritance, further discussing that these abilities are bloodline limits that were passed down to him by his elder Uzumaki ancestors, as Kushina was carrying them within her genes but could only activate the Uzumaki chakra chain's Kekkei Genkei. As for the Juinjutsu blocking seal, I have not spoken to the council about it, so I will say that Jiraiya was the one who placed it there, as he discovered how to use such a seal inside the scroll of forbidden jutsu which I had allowed him to read through. Kaharu, your sudden change will also need to be addressed, as Danzo will see that it is indeed you." Kaharu formed a thinking pose for a second, then looked back to Hiruzen with a stoic expression and replied, "Danzo is a person who tends to always try and find out the very things that do not concern him, as knowing everyone's secrets is one of things he is best at. Even if I was to say this as a genjutsu I decided to apply on myself, he would see right through it, and now that this truly is me. My suggestion is that young Master Naruto creates a carbon clone body of my old self, and you will have it admitted to the hospital, saying that I am suffering from a critical heart disease I got due to my age and being poisoned by one of Orochimaru's assassins. By the end of the final stage of the Chunin exams, that body will be pronounced dead, as I will die of kidney failure and the heart disease that I have suffered from 4 months ago. Yes, but still, the medical ninja of the hospital could do an analysis to see if the body isn't just some sort of empty vessel or transformed clone, and that would mean that either you have been kidnapped or you faked your own death to try and defect from Konoha without anyone knowing. I'm not sure this idea will work unless you can copy down Ko's life force and chakra into the body," said Homura. Naruto placed his hands in his pockets, then said with a grin, "Actually, there is way this could work. You see, the Rakudo Sennin created the Biju not out of nothing, but through the use of a technique called the Banbutsu Sozo no Jutsu. This technique alone allowed him to be initially involved in the administration of imagination and the spiritual energy which forms the basis of yin chakra to create physical forms from nothingness, just like I do with my left hand, which allows me to use the yin half of my chakra when I choose to. Then, through the application of vitality, and the physical energy which forms the basis of yang chakra, he would breathe life into the resulting creations he made with the yin part of his chakra. With this technique, I will create Kaharu-san's aged body, then she will breathe life into it, giving the body her own small life force and chakra. Of course, she will have to train in the use of using her yang chakra separately, but that won't take longer than 2 days. Once that is done, I will start working on changing her chakra signature in order for no one to put two and two together that she is still alive and faked her own death. And before anyone asks me how I know all of this, it's because of the blood transfusion between me and the blood of Kaguya-sama and Jashin-Heime's father, along with gaining some of their memories, gains a deadpan expression. Homura at first thought over the process of the plan, then nodded, seeing as the plan was now completely solid, but one detail was left out. You will have to change your name for this plan to fully work. You have any ideas for that? Said Homura. Koharu remained silent for a moment, then looked at Homura and responded, my name will be Udatane, and I will bear no surname. If I am to be asked of where I come from and who are my parents, I will explain that I lost my parents at birth and that I, or rather Koharu-sama, adopted me for the first 14 years of my life and gave me her surname to use as a name since I was never given one at birth. Very well. I think the plan will be set in motion as soon as Naruto-kun creates the body and Udatane-san masters her use in Yang release. However, Jashin-sama, if I may speak, I already know what you two are gonna ask me, said Jashin with a half-smile as she looked at Homura and Hiruzen, who avoided the goddess gaze while sweating nervously. I'll cut a deal with the both of you. For you, Homura-kun, I will give you a cup of my water for the following. Some time from now, a certain somebody will be defecting from Konohagakure. When that happens, you will support Hiruzen over here in labeling that certain someone an S-class threat and give the kill on-site order. For you Hiruzen, I want you to search and eliminate this man. Jashin walked up to the desk and opened up a bingo book that was nearby to a page showing a white-haired man's face. His name is Hidan. From what I know right now, he last performed a ritual in Yugakure no Sato, meaning that he probably lives there or something. I don't know and don't care. The reason why I want him gone is because he is the worst worshipper I ever had. All I could hear for the past 200 years is his stupid laughing, screaming my name in vain and begging me to make him an angel of death so that he could be more closer to me than my first and most precious worshipper. When you see him and engage in battle, don't let him stab you with his scythe, as that will allow him to start the ritual of killing you and feeding your soul to me. When you go for the kill, blow him the up. I mean it deadpan, blow him up and leave not even a single piece of him behind, as that is the only way you can kill Jashinists of his kind. Sweat drop. Very well, Jashin-sama. Once I step down from my position, I shall dedicate my retirement to finding this man and eliminating him once and for all, said Hiruzen, getting a subtle nod from Jashin, who then clapped her hands together and said, now then. Naruto-sama and Yuta-chan here will be working on the plan to fake her death for the week. After that, me and my cousin will remove the temple out of the ground and on to an unused training ground in the clan district. The move won't be noticed as we will do it late in the early hours of the morning. It's up to you how you wanna tell the council and the people of this village about its sudden appearance, but the temple solely belongs to Naruto-sama and only him, therefore, it is called the Uzumaki Temple. Now if you will excuse us, I will be the one to explain to Naruto-sama about his true heritage and who are his parents. Naruto-sama will come to you tomorrow in the afternoon before the council meeting is held. Koharu, or rather Udatane, walked up to Homura and gave him a hug as she said, I hope you can manage keeping Sarutobi in line on your own, Homura. But of course, you might have been the smartest one in our team, but I was always the strict one looking after you and him, and keeping you both out of trouble. Udatane pulled away from the hug, and gave Hiruzen a nod, to which he gave one back and said, next time we see each other, I will be sure to give you your kunoichi gear back and reinstate you as a Junin, Udatane. Naruto walked up to Kakashi, who has been rather quiet all this time, and said to his sensei, are you okay, Kakashi-sensei? You haven't said a thing since Ya-chan spoke. Kakashi looked down to his blonde student, then I smiled as he said, I'm perfectly fine, Naruto. I was just taking in what has happened so far. It's not every day you hear that every single deity in existence comes from a clan, and one of your students just so happens to have one of them as his servant, while that deity's parents will now be constantly watching over him, showering him with protection beyond the universe, or more so the protection you were robbed of as a child, frowns, but I smiles. At first, Udatane was against the thought, seeing as Naruto was extremely younger than her, but that thought was immediately pushed out of her mind when she realized that Naruto was in a relationship with someone far older than her, being Jashin, meaning that age was probably not gonna be a problem for her if she so chooses to become her young master's lover in the near future. Just as Naruto was about to walk over to Jashin, then leave with her and Udatane for the temple, he felt a hand on his shoulder and looked to see Anko looking at him with a softened expression and a small smile as she said to him, "Can I come with you? There's something I need to tell you that's sort of related to what you're gonna hear from Jashin-sama. I wanna tell you everything about why I took care of you, then adopted you, and why I have cared so much about you all this time when you were still young, and now." Naruto could see that she really wanted to come, as he could see it in her eyes that were normally hidden by her mask of always being tough about things, being sadistic and installing fear into any man who so much as tried to greet her, as that mask was gone, revealing that sweet and vulnerable side that Naruto saw only a couple of times when he still lived with her. He gave a sad smile to Anko and responded, "Sure, why not? Naruto-sama, it is time for us to leave now," said Udatane, who placed her right hand on Naruto's right shoulder with Anko placing her hand on his left. Jashin walked over to them and grabbed Naruto's hand and said, "Don't worry, Naruto-sama. I'll send us home, since teleporting this many people from such a long distance would cause a strain on you. For now, that is." The group of four were soon encircled by different red glowing symbols that span around them fast. Then they left the room in a white flash, with the symbols disappearing after they had left the temple. In a large sitting room that is adored with gold-plated tiles, with the walls being white and the white ceiling having a large candle chandelier lighting up the room, as this room has multiple sofas with a large fireplace keeping the room's temperature warm, and a sitting table surrounding one large family couch. Jashin, Udatane, Anko and Naruto all appeared at the same time in a white flash, as red symbols span around them for a few seconds before they vanished, not leaving a single trace behind. Jashin turned to Udatane, then gave the raven-haired woman a warm smile as she said, "Uda-chan, will you mind bringing Afi-chan here for us? She's just upstairs in the second floor. You'll know which room to find her in. While you're at it, please prepare us some dinner with the finest bottle of sake you can find at the alcohol storage." Udatane gave a small bow and left the sitting room as she took the stairs to go find Office, then do the task of preparing food for everyone with some other dishes to prepare for her young master. Jashin turned to Naruto and said, "Naruto-sama, you might wanna sit down for this. You too, Anko-sama." Once everyone was seated, Jashin took a deep breath, then exhaled before she looked at Naruto and said, "Do you know anything about your parents, Naruto-sama? Have you ever guessed who they might be?" "Well, yeah, a couple of times. I once saw this picture of the Yondaime Hokage, and I oddly saw the similarities I have with him, like the blonde spiky hair and my eyes. Then I saw the picture of this woman in a textbook explaining the kunoichi history of Konoha. I think her name was Kushina Uzumaki, aka the Red Death of Konoha," said Anko. "She was my Junin instructor back in the day before I left with that bastard of a snake Orochimaru." Naruto eye widened at this, but composed himself as he continued, "I actually read her entire biography and noticed that she was the Yondaime's wife and she had a child. The textbook said that she died with the child on the day she was." "Oh boy," said Naruto, seeing the softened expressions on Jashin's face and Anko's face as well. "It was a lie, wasn't it?" said Naruto, getting slow nods from the two females before him. Naruto sat there for a moment looking down as his eyes seemed to be narrowed, then looked at Anko and said, "What exactly happened on the day I was born?" "Naruto, on the day you were being delivered, the Yondaime had your mother moved to a secret location so that no one who would be harmed by the Kyuubi if it got out of the seal in your mother, and to make sure that no one tried to attempt to kidnap her or you right after the birth. She did manage to give birth to you without having the seal breaking down, as your father Minato was maintaining the seal the whole time and keeping it closed until your mother was out of labor. What actually went wrong was when a mysterious masked man came to that secret location, killed the Sandame's wife and took you hostage. This man only wanted your mother, and the Yondaime tried his best to save both you and her, but only could manage to get you first. Once he did, he took you to the mansion he and your mother lived in, and once you were safe, he went out searching for your mother, but it was too late, as this masked man had forcefully removed the Kyuubi from the seal, and used some sort of strong mind-controlling genjutsu on it to make it go on a wild rampage, nearly destroying Konoha, and killing lots of innocent people who fell victim to its rage that day. Naruto was silent for a few minutes, but sat back up as he looked up to the ceiling, showing that his eyes were close to tears, and this caused both females to gain looks of sadness at seeing their always grinning and take no shit Naruto, now nearly being pushed to tears at hearing about his parents and what happened on his day of birth. Anko reached for his right hand, and slowly caressed it as she continued. Your mother, she was somehow still alive, and she had managed to survive the extraction of the Kyuubi from her, and the Yondaime quickly saved her before the masked man could kill her. They were both debating about what to do on the whole situation, and the Yondaime came up with the idea to have the Kyuubi sealed inside you. Your mother argued and fought at first about it, but your father told her that he couldn't ask for another person's child if he wasn't willing to sacrifice his own, and there was no other Uzumaki in the village that could house the Kyuubi, seeing as your mother was far too injured and would die too quick, only allowing for the Kyuubi to come back and cause more havoc on Konoha. Kushina-sensei, she really cried when she had no choice but to help your father work on summoning the Shinigami and creating the seal that will hold the Kyuubi in you. She knew how horrible the life of a Jinchuriki would be, but your father reassured her that you would be seen as a hero for holding the Kyuubi at bay and making sure that it would never harm the lives of anyone again. There was a brief moment of silence as the two females watched Naruto sit there taking in the information, and they too began to weep when they saw Naruto clench his hands into fists while tears began to fall from his puffy red eyes. What? Sobs, what about the masked man? Did they find out who he was? Said Naruto. Anko wiped away her own tears and replied, Hi. Your father fought with him for a while before he was able to defeat him and severe the genjutsu he had over the Kyuubi. He found out that this man was actually an Uchiha, and claimed to be the late Madara Uchiha, who is the Uchiha clan's late clan head and ancestor. Since then, the Sandame along with the village elders have been conducting an investigation to see if the masked man would be amongst them, but came out with nothing, as they didn't have a brief description of him apart from claiming to be the dead Uchiha ancestor. Look, Naruto-kun, a lot of us knew the truth, but we were told to never tell you until you were strong enough to protect yourself from your father's and your mother's enemies, since that was the reason why you were not given both Minato's and Suhina-sensei's last names. I begged and pleaded with the Hokage and the council to let me adopt you, but I was denied at every turn. The Sandame, he was the one who helped me get close to you and take care of you while the council wouldn't know about it. When the Sandame bought that apartment down at the 9th district, I also moved in next door to you. It was then that I started to look after you, even though I wasn't always there that time. What about Kakashi-sensei? Did he know about this too? Said Naruto, with Anko replying, he was your father's best student. Demo, Kakashi has been through a lot in his life before you were born. First, he lost his mother, his father the White Fang of Konoha, to suicide. Then he lost his two teammates during the Third Shinobi War. Then he lost your father and mother. When that happened, he joined the Anbu and buried himself into work until he wasn't in the village any longer, taking mission after mission. I guess you can say he sort of shared the same pain Kaharu-san had about you in a way. But me and Nai-chan, we got him to quit being an Anbu member and become a Junin sensei so that he could hold up his promise of teaching you all the things your father taught him when he was still learning from him. Since then, he did all he could to teach you and make you a strong and powerful shinobi, even though the civilian council kept on blackmailing him to focus more on Sasuke and neglect you on purpose. Do I have any other family out there? Said Naruto as he was now calm and wiped the tears away from his whiskered cheeks while taking deep breaths to stop the sobbing. Anko shook her head and said, I don't know much about that besides Jiraiya of the Sannin being your godfather. Naruto-kun, I'd be lying if I said I wasn't trying to make him stay and look after you with me. He was always in and out of the village, never staying for a day. Demo, I did get him to buy you that ugly jumpsuit and get you that year's supply of ramen that you always wanted. Naruto gave a low chuckle at hearing what Anko said and responded, at least he did something for me when I was kid, and stopped some of those mob attacks that happened to me, but next time I see him, I wanna hear from him why he never stayed or took me with him to wherever he went since it was his duty as a godparent to look after me in case my parents weren't around. Sigh, you both wanna know how I feel about all of this, don't you? Naruto received nods from both Anko and Jashin, causing him to sigh as he continued. I feel a lot of things right now. One of them happens to be happiness at knowing my parents are two of the most strongest ninja Konoha has ever produced, then there is anger at knowing that they are the very people who are partially to be blamed for the shitty life I've lived. But now, I am starting to realize that it wasn't my dad's fault altogether as he was only doing his duty as the Hokage to protect the village, and his duty as a father to protect me since he knew both him and mom wouldn't be there for me since they were fighting to protect everyone in the village and me. The only bad thing he did on his side was trusting this village to treat me as the hero he wanted. I heard from Mizuki that my dad was the person who sealed the fox into me, but the secret was to be never released for my own safety since people were still mourning the loss of their loved ones dying at the hands of the fox, and were literally searching for a scapegoat to release all their anger on. It was those power-hungry sons of bitches of the civilian council that put the word out about me being the Kyuubi Jinchuriki, and that's when all the shit started for me with this village. Sigh, if you're gonna ask me if I forgive my mom and dad for what they have done. I do. Even though I still hold some anger at them, I understand that my mom must have said a lot of things to me before she sacrificed herself for the Kyuubi to be sealed away. My dad, well, if I was to ever meet him, I would give him the beating of a lifetime, that's for sure. But I do understand that had he not sealed the Kyuubi into me, the entire village would have been destroyed and innocent lives would have been lost if he didn't do anything to stop the Kyuubi. As for the masked man, dry chuckle, he just gave me an epiphany of a lifetime. A good Uchiha is a dead Uchiha. I swear that if I ever cross paths with him in this lifetime or the next, I will make sure that I kill him, then bring back to life just to kill him again, and again, and again in a lot of different ways that I suffered at the hands of the villagers, just to make him feel the pain he caused me all my life. That's a promise of a lifetime. Jashin could no longer help herself, and got close to Naruto as she hugged him and openly wept on his shoulder. Naruto was shocked at first, but soon came to hug the goddess back while saying soothing words to calm her down while soothingly rubbing her back and patting the back of her head. Anko smiled at seeing Naruto comfort Jashin, and couldn't help but also sit close to him and brush the top of his head while giving him one of her true smiles that she rarely gave anyone. You've really grown up from the time I met you. Naruto-kun. You remind me so much of your mother's kindness towards everyone, and how she was able to see things from a different perspective instead of jumping to conclusions like she did when she was younger. You were sort of brash and loud-mouthed like she was when she was a child, and she also had the same dream as you when she was a genin. She wanted to become Hokage. Said Naruto, getting a nod from a smiling Anko. After 2 minutes of Jashin's crying, the gray-haired Otsutsuki finally calmed down, and looked up to Naruto as he asked her, so what were you going to tell me about my heritage, Ya-chan? You said something about my true heritage that I should know before Hokage-sama would mention it to the council. Well, now that you know who your parents are, I need to tell you that your mother, Kushina, was actually a part of a clan called the Uzumaki clan, and so are you, Naruto-sama. At this, Naruto was eye-widened into shock, but composed his shock as he responded to Jashin with a question. Wait a minute, now that I remember, I overheard some people back in the Wave Country talking about a place called Uzushiogakure. Was that? Yes. Uzushiogakure was actually a village of the Wave Country, and it belonged to the Uzumaki clan, and had it not been for the attack it suffered, it would have been the sixth great village of the elemental nations today. You see, the Uzumaki clan was one of the clans that helped the Senju and Uchiha clan build Konohagakure no Sato after the clan wars, and when that was done, they became an independent clan that worked to become one of the best and strongest clans that would even have their own village and maybe their own country. The Uzumaki clan was known for its godly prowess in Fuinjutsu along with their chakra chains and longevity, as some of them, like the late Mito Uzumaki, would live for at least a good 100 years before dying of natural causes. After the First Shinobi War, the Uzumaki clan was close to becoming the sixth major village in the elemental nations, and this didn't sit well with the cages of Kumo, Iwa and Kiri during that time. Because of that, the Uzumaki clan was seen as a threat, and those three major villages came together to form a surprise attack on the Uzumaki clan that destroyed Uzushio and killed almost every member of the clan. The leader of the clan had sent the message to Konoha and Suna for their immediate aid in fighting off the Kumo Kiri Iwa forces. Demo, that's where the real truth comes in. The messages were sent through the use of summons, as the leader of the clan had the dog summoning contract and the jackal summoning contract. When the summon that was sent to Konoha arrived, it was killed by a certain someone who also had a spy in Suna to take care of the summon that was supposed to give the message to the Kazakage. This person apparently was also in the discussions made between Kumo, Kiri and Iwa, and aided them in finding which weak spots to hit the clan, giving them the upper advantage once they had arrived at Uzushiogakure. Before Jashin could further continue talking, Udatane, still dressed in the long gray skirt that reached past her knees showing the bottom half of her smooth long legs and sleeveless gray shirt that was cut short over her mid-C cup exposing her flat stomach and cute belly button with her marvelous hips giving her the figure of supermodel, arrived with two shadow clones carrying the dinner feast with Ophis following close behind, who was still dressed in her long black nightdress adored with a fishcake pattern on it, now wearing just a pair of black slippers on her small feet. The former Hokage advisor, village elder, placed the trays of food on the table, then said to Naruto, "I cooked this feast for you, Naruto-sama. I hope that you will like the plate of ramen I had made with oxtail and beef soup especially for you. The bottle of sake will be ready shortly. Where did you find this woman, Ya-chan? She really knows her stuff. I've been watching her for the past 10 minutes now since I had woken up," said Ophis. Naruto eye widened at the food before him that was served like a feast meant for a king, then grinned with eye smiles while rubbing the back of his head and said, "You really didn't have to go through making so much food, Udatane-san. It looks like you were cooking for a king and his army. Demo, you are far greater than any king that has come to ever exist, Naruto-sama," said Udatane, who raised her right eyebrow and gave a smile which made Naruto blush at the compliment, and her smiling, then gave a sheepish laugh causing the women who were watching to giggle at Naruto's blushing and Udatane's teasing. Jashin looked over to Udatane and said, "Uda-chan, I was just explaining to Naruto-sama the fall of Uzushio and his clan. Would you care to tell him who is responsible for the fall of his clan, along with the passing of Mito Uzumaki and the reason why Naruto-sama's mother was chosen to be the Nadame Kyuubi Jinchuriki?" Upon hearing the question, Udatane's smile vanished from her face and narrowed her eyes, then gave Naruto a stern look and said, Shimura. Danzo Shimura. 1 week later. Konoha Hospital. Sitting at one of the chairs of the waiting room inside the hospital is one Kakashi Hatake reading his favorite pastime book in silence while he was waiting for his eternal rival to finish his visit here in the hospital, since he promised the bowl-cut-haired taijutsu master that they will have a little spar before Kakashi would return to training his least favorite student Sasuke. Without even looking up from his book, the one-eyed mask-wearing Junin said, "Hello, Naruto. Nice to finally see your face again." Naruto, who was planning on startling his sensei, gained a deadpan expression with a throbbing vein on his forehead at being discovered before he could scare Kakashi, sat down next to his sensei and replied, "Nice to see you too, Kakashi-sensei. How have you been?" You know, a little bit of this, a little bit of that. I've been training him, like I always do, and now I am forced to teach him an A-rank assassination jutsu that will help him in his fight against the Ikibi Jinchuriki Gara no Subaku. That, and I have been trying to talk that godfather of yours since he got here about getting you this. Kakashi took out 2 scrolls from his pockets and handed them to Naruto, then said, "Inside those 2 scrolls are the 2 jutsu that gave your father the S-rank threat level in the flee on-site order. The Rasengan and the Hiroshin no Jutsu. I figured that since you will be trained by her, who seems to get the gist of how things work with training you, she can help you master these 2 jutsu before the finals of the Chunin exams. Of course, Jiraiya was supposed to teach you, but you and Anko had landed him in a coma he probably won't be waking up from in a month's time, I think. Hey, you know he deserved it for what he had to say to me before he told me the reason why he wasn't always around in my childhood." HMPH, said Naruto with a huff while folding his arms over his chest, causing Kakashi to eye smile, but his expression soon softened when he looked down to the floor and said to Naruto, "About that, Naruto. I'm really sorry for what happened to you. I was really blinded by my grief and blaming myself for your parents' death that I nearly forgot about you." Grins, "Don't sweat it, Kakashi-sensei. Anko-chan had already told me what you had to go through when you were still young, and it wasn't really your fault that Tu-san and Ka-chan died. I actually wish that maybe I could have helped you deal with the pain of having to lose the people you care about, since I know that pain too." Kakashi's expression brightened up at hearing that, but looked at Naruto with a comical grin and raised eyebrow as he said, "Ooh. So it's Anko-chan, now. Wow, Naruto. That charm of yours knows no boundaries. Not to forget that Lady Luck must be really on your side with the ladies. First it was finding, you know who, and bagging Utatane-san as a servant, then the new cute lowly dragon girl, now you're dating one of Konoha's most feared ice queens. I fear for the many women you will come across when you get older one day. And the kids you will be having. Hoo. I see an army of demigods running everywhere here in Konoha." Grunts and eye rolls at the perverted giggle of his sensei. "Keep it together, Kakashi-sensei, for you will never know if Ya-chan or Yuta-can are watching over me right now with Kagaya-sama's crystal ball. You saw what happened to that closet pervert Ebisu when he was watching Anko-chan and Office-chan go to the private hot springs," said Naruto, causing a dark cloud to fall on a comically crying Kakashi with his shoulders slumped down, who said, "That hot spring is gone. And that was the only one without a roof in Konoha. It's all gone from just one lava release technique she used to destroy it. Now there will never be Ika Konoha adventures anymore because of this comical sob. Anyway, thanks for the jutsu, Kakashi-sensei, and I'll be sure to master them during my training period. And for what's it's worth, I hope you stop training that stuck-up Uchiha Fago after this," said Naruto. Kakashi nodded once and said, "Hokage-sama and Homura-sama will help me with that, as the civilian council will be reported to the fire daimyo of their business in interfering with shinobi affairs, laundering money from Konoha's tax payments and the Shinobi Academy, along with other crimes they have committed, like exposing an S-class secret, which is your Jinchuriki status, to the village during the time the villagers were still recovering from the Kyuubi attack. Once everyone on the civilian council has been arrested and executed for their crimes, a new batch hand chosen by the Hokage and his advisor will fix the mess that was made, like the education system in the Shinobi Academy and the village's economic system." "Well, that's good to hear, but I gotta go back home and help Yuta-chan with that plan of ours. I'll see ya soon, Kakashi-sensei," said Naruto, who got up and left the hospital as Kakashi also said goodbye to him. Kakashi sighed to himself as he sat back onto the chair and pulled out the book, but smiled at the same time as he thought to himself. It seems like things are finally turning for the better in this village that has lost so much over the years. But I just hope that things can stay that way for Naruto. I can't help but feel as if a heavy storm will come before the sun can shine down on us all. Sigh. Unknown location. Quote. Ah, I see you have finally returned from the little mission I had sent you on, Luka-kun. What have you discovered about the Kyuubi brat when you followed him to wherever it is he was going? I have discovered that he found a temple that belongs to the long-forgotten mother of the Rakuto SSSS's Sennin. It SSSSSSEEMS that he has gotten SSSSS such power in his grasp from whatever is inside. However, I could not enter the temple as the doors will only open once they sense the chakra SSSSS signatures of those who are registered to the temple. I found out about who the temple belongs to by the SSSS stone table I found nearby. Be warned, Orochimaru, the Otsutsuki are a SSSSS species no one on this world or any other world could match or even hope to touch, as they are a species of gods and goddesses who are very much respected and feared throughout all of existence. If the Kyuubi Jinchuriki has gotten such power from them, there will be no capturing him like you are doing with SSSSSASUKE. I would advise that you SSSSS stay away from him, as he already has even greater enemies that will come after him in the Otsutsuki clan. Really, now, still, it wouldn't hurt to try and see if I could make him my second vessel. After all, he does seem to have the legendary chakra of a god, and those eyes seem to hold far more interest and power than the great Uchiha clan's Sharingan and the Rinnegan. Such power will be too much of waste to ignore. Evil smirk. And who knows, maybe I can finally get all the world's jutsu and more if I can find a way into the temple if it is to ever surface to the ground. If I can accomplish that, there will be no single ninja in the world that could reach my level. Cuckoo. In the cage stands, just as soon as the white feathers fell on the crowd, the cage soon turned his attention to the Sandaime Hokage, who also did the same. Then Kaharu turned her attention to Kidomaru, who was hopping towards them, and thought, Soka, I see now. So this is an invasion conducted by Suna and Otogakure, and by this standoff between Hiruzen and whoever is under that skin, there should be several objectives to be made while the invasion is planned, meaning that the Ikibi Jinchuriki will be the center of all the havoc that will be caused once he either uses the said Biju's beast form or allows the Shukaku to take control. And for Office-sama to draw a contract with the Fallen Angel faction means that there could a chance that the Suna Odo forces heading into the village could split up with one quarter, making a beeline for the temple. However, if the cage plans to fight and hope to kill Sarutobi, then he will need to make sure the fight is not disturbed, meaning these three and that boy approaching us will create some sort of barrier to make sure no one is to disturb the assassination. Okay then. Just as soon as Kidomaru was about to reach the cage stands, a clone made of the wind stopped him in mid-air and delivered a punch to the gut and headbutt, causing the six-armed Odo Genin to fall back and land on the ground just inside the stadium. Hey, get out of the way, you bitch. Or do you have some kind of death wish or something? Said Kidomaru, only to be met with silence as the wind clone of Udatane did a few hands and said, wind style, blaze of the blade jutsu. And was met with 4 gusts of wind hitting him from all corners, which then slowly began to spin around him, causing Kidomaru to levitate in mid-air with the 4 winds forming a tornado with him inside of it. Just as he was about to try and get his way out of the tornado by creating a web he can jump on to leap out of danger, he looked up to see the wind clone flying above and said to him, "You will now have your last breath, misguided child of the sound." Preforms several hand signs at cage speeds, then flares chakra. Corrosion style. Glowing Amur palm. The entire form of the wind clone was then coated with lava and flames were dangerously emitting from it. The wind clone flew straight into the tornado with a heavy right fist cocked back, then punched Kidomaru right in the face, which soon began to turn into ash, causing him to scream in pain as the hit of the clone was too much for his body. The clone did a one-handed hand sign and boom! The tornado blew up in flames, and only ash could be seen as the remains of the Kidomaru from the explosion made by the lava-coated wind clone. The 3 guards of the disguised cage saw this and threw smoke bombs onto the ground. The cage jumped towards Hiruzen and got him in a lock with a kunai to the neck, then hopped off to the roof. The smoke was blown away by a gust of wind, and Udatane saw the three cloaked guards throw away the cloaks as they all stood in front of the cage holding Hiruzen hostage. To Yuya, we told you stop cussing over nothing. I can't believe this. Why did that Anbu create that clone to block Kidomaru in the first place? This must mean that Anbu must have figured something out about these three, with Kidomaru foolishly approaching out in the open. Does that mean she understands I need 4 people to create a barrier to fight Sarutobi-sensei? No matter. Uken can take Kidomaru's place. The cage hissed in annoyance of the 3 before him, arguing, and said to them, "Stop your bickering right now. Sakin, release Uken and form the barrier quickly, you idiots." The one with silver hair and an extra head nodded to the command he was given, and another body soon submerged out from him, which looks to be his exact twin wearing the same clothes as his twin. Udatane shook her head as she jumped onto the roof and threw her mask to the side with the sword on her back, then took off her shinobi sandals, and said, "Pathetic. You 4 barely know what to do when one plan fails, and you are all mere children who are just as misguided as that one I have just killed. Why would someone take such a partial interest in children who don't know the first thing about improvisation when the first plan fails? Unless, quote, to Yuya, this is no damn time to be angry at this woman pressing your buttons. Orochimaru-sama needs us to place the barrier before the Hokage's reinforcements arrive," said Sakin, getting a growl at the redhead, who kept silent but continued to glare daggers at a stern but calm Udatane. The raven-haired elder took out 5 kunai and threw them to the 4 guards, who blocked at least 4 of them, but one managed to pass through, which went flying for the right shoulder of the disguised cage, who released Hiruzen, then jumped away before the kunai could land a direct stab on its target. Once the kunai stuck to the ground, it was replaced in puff of smoke, with Udatane, who now stood beside Hiruzen and shouted, "Show yourself. Udatane. You should be at the temple guarding it with Anko instead of being here. Listen, Sarutobi, I don't have the time to be telling you how I got this uniform, how I was able to get the mission of guarding you, and why in the first place. Just now that Yasama is the person who sent me to make sure nothing happened to your senile behind," said Udatane, getting no response to Sarutobi, who stood still for a moment, then nodded to her and threw his robes to the side, revealing his battle attire. The cage threw the robe away, with the skin mask being shed off, revealing it to be none other than a slightly angered Orochimaru, who shouted to his 4 guards, "Now, you whimpering idiots. Form the barrier now." All 4 of the ninja got into 4 separate positions and did multiple hand signs as they shouted, "4 violet flames formation." Just as soon as a squad of Anbu arrived to the scene, the barrier was immediately in place, and one of the Anbu tried running through the barrier only to be turned into ashes. "We can't pass through this barrier, Hokage-sama. What should we do?" said one of the Anbu, with Hiruzen replying, "I am fine, as I already have assistants in here. Go to the tower and guard it from anyone entering or trying to steal something. Make sure no one is to get into my office, and ring the alarm for the emergency evacuation. Now go." The Anbu reluctantly left the roof in a leaf shunshin, leaving the Sandaime and Udatane to be inside the barrier with Hiruzen's treacherous student disguised as the Yondaime cage, who glared at Udatane and said, "Who are you and why are you derailing my plans to kill Sarutobi-sensei by entering this battle that is only between me and him alone? Who I am is none of your business, Orochimaru, but I thought you would already know me by my face and the sound of my voice. I knew you from the very day you were still a child, that you were nothing but a ticking time bomb waiting to explode with your senile dream of being the greatest shinobi with all knowledge of jutsu, and I had come to realize that your determination and your rotten childhood would push you too far in the pursuit of that dream. I tried to tell Sarutobi that he should keep constant watch of you and keep you in line from defecting from Konoha like you did all those years ago, but his care blinded him too much, and it was already too late for you because of the bad childhood you suffered living in Konoha. Now I will be the one to help him correct his mistake, as I know he can never do things on his own, and give you the last breath you will ever breath in this life and the next," said Udatane with her own stern glare measuring Orochimaru's, who later began to regain his composure with his evil smirk and said, "Kukuku. So you know about me that well. You truly must be someone who knows Sarutobi-sensei and his connection to me all too well. But I do question who you are, as I think I have seen your face somewhere, but I just can't seem to put my finger on it. Can you not see who is standing right in front of you, Orochimaru? This is Kaharu Udatane, my former teammate," said Hiruzen, and Orochimaru laughed out loud as he gave Udatane a mocking glare and said to her, "So you have also fell towards the miracle of genjutsu like Tsunade. How pathetic of an old woman to think she can reclaim her former glory by hiding under such a feeble idea to look more presentable. I realize now that you being here won't be much of a setback, but a step forward in my plans, as you were also a problem to me while I was still a shinobi for this foul village. Now prepare to die, as I will kill you and Sarutobi-sensei today." Udatane kept silent for a moment, then raised her hand to her face and bit off the middle finger, causing blood to ooze out everywhere, getting a look of utter shock from a temporarily paralyzed Orochimaru. She spat out the finger from her mouth, then the bitten finger slowly regrew just as Udatane showed it to Orochimaru in an insulting manner and said, "Does this look like a genjutsu to you, snake boy? Enough babbling. If you have come here to try and raise Konoha to the ground and hope to kill Hiruzen and capture Naruto-sama, then you have another thing coming. You are dealing with forces that are far above your miniature level, and you will pay dearly for even thinking of challenging our home and attempting to kidnap my master. For it is you who shall feel the Shinigami's cold touch and freezing breath when you enter the afterlife. This cannot be possible. There is not a single way her body could just do that and look like that. I need to be wary of her, as I don't know her arsenal of skills, and I feel as if capturing that brat will not be an accomplishment I can't take today. No matter, so long as I have done enough damage to this wretched place and kill Sarutobi-sensei, I will at least do something right with my plans. That temple is something I will try to find my way in another time." Orochimaru smirked again as he said, "The time to die is now near, Sarutobi-sensei, and while your teammate will be a hindrance to me now, I still have this one trick up my sleeve." Does a few handsings, then slaps hands onto the floor. Summoning. Impure World Reincarnation. 1. A dark casket rose from the ground at the command. 2. Another casket rose with Orochimaru laughing menacingly and said, 3. With the last casket raising from the ground. The Sandaime panicked at this and said to Kaharu, "We need to destroy the last casket, as I already know who he plans to resurrect to fight me. I can try." And he stopped talking when Kaharu looked over to him and smiled as she closed her eyes and then opened them, revealing that they have changed as the iris went from its black to white with an upside-down star inside of it, and said to him with her voice being slightly deep, "Do not be afraid, old friend. I am here to help you finish what you have failed to do, and I will be with you every step of the way to make sure you don't die, as today is not your time to go." She turned back to the third casket, then closed her left eye with her right eye glaring at the casket and muttered, "Amaterasu." In just a second, black flames came flying out from Kaharu's right eye and burnt the casket to ashes, leaving not a single trace of the said casket behind except for a skeleton and the black flames still burning on the ground. Orochimaru's eye widened as he thought to himself again while glaring daggers at Udatane, "Damn it. This old goat of a woman has the variant abilities of the Sharingan too. How can that even be possible in the first place? How can I hope to kill Sensei if I don't know anything about this woman and how far her limit goes? I need to release the other two before she can destroy them." The lids of the two caskets dropped to reveal the Shadaime and Nidaime Hokage with dead skin on their person, dressed in their battle armor, looking extremely confused as the Shadaime said, "Brother, where are we? How are we alive again?" The Edo Tensei. Someone looks behind him. "This young man here has brought us back to life, and we are in some sort of barrier jutsu, meaning we cannot see just where exactly we are," said the Nidaime Hokage, but his eyes soon landed on Hiruzen and a younger-looking Udatane, then eye widened as he saw her eyes and continued, "Hashirama, look. I believe we are in Konoha as that is Sarutobi and Co., who looks much younger than Sarutobi and she has strange eyes, familiar eyes. Sarutobi. Kaharu. It's been a while, and what happened to your eyes, Ko? They look a lot like some sort of dujutsu, like a Mangekyo Sharingan. Have you tried to transplant them into yourself? Kaharu ignored the two reanimated cages as she turned her attention to a paralyzed with shock Hiruzen and shook him a little as she said, Hiruzen Sarutobi. Sandame Hokage of Konohagakure no Sato and former member of Team Tobarama. I need you to snap out of it and focus this instant. You will handle your traitor of a student and leave Sensei and the Shadaime to me. And do not hold back against him cause if you do, he will kill you. Orochimaru was smirking the whole time as he saw Hiruzen frozen with shock and casting a look of regret in his eyes to be seen, and took out the kunai tagged with talismans and he said, This is where you die, Sarutobi sensei. It is a little ironic, isn't it? Fighting the very two people who taught you all you know, but also dying at the hands of your greatest student who you cared far too much to kill when you had the chance. As for you, Kaharu-san, I may not know the full extent of your abilities and overall power, but I have much faith that these two will be able to distract you while I end your old fool of a teammate, inserts the tagged kunai into the Shadaime then. Substitution Jutsu. In the blink of an eye, Orochimaru found himself now standing beside Hiruzen who jumped away from him and got into a stance, and looked to see Kaharu was standing behind the two reanimated Hokages and inserted her own tagged kunai into the Nadame Hokage. His eyes immediately lost all life, then turned to his brother who also turned his focus at Tobarama and Kaharu who got into a battle-ready stance with her eyes reverting back to normal and said to Hiruzen, Stop being afraid for once in your life, and put aside your regret for what you have done in the past aside. You need to end this now. Inside the temple, the room that leads to all higher and lower floors of the building, here we see a tall man with tanned skin and an average build dressed in a pair of red shoes with long black trousers and a dark red matching trench coat held closed by two belts and has no shirt on revealing his bare chest. The man has a heart-shaped face devoid of any fat and has a black goatee with light red eyes and black hair with golden bangs. The man appears to be sitting on a red leather chair looking at the direction of the door and he was just on the phone with Ophis as he placed the phone back into the left pocket of his pants. The man stood up from his seat and shouted, Mittelt. Rainer. It's time we open up the gateway and set her free. Those bastards are on their way here and we need to act fast. Underneath the portrait of Kagaya Otsutsuki, two separate doors opened up with two feminine figures coming out from them. The first is a short girl with blue eyes and blonde hair styled in twin tails wearing a gothic Lolita attire which consisted of a black Lolita dress with white frills, a large black bow on the front and a green jewel embedded on the collar along with white thigh-high socks and black shoes and has her hair tied by a black bow at the top of her head. The second and last woman is a young and very attractive woman who has long black hair with two bangs covering the sides of her face with small fringes on her forehead and has gorgeous violet eyes as the woman is dressed in black flat shoes with a black loose short skirt matching the black sleeveless jacket which is slightly open revealing her well-toned stomach and lacy white bra that holds her perky DD cup in place. The black-haired woman identified as Rayer looked at Azazel and said, What exactly are we supposed to be releasing? I'm actually curious to find out what it is as this is a strange gateway that we're supposed to open. I was really looking forward to doing nothing but cleaning again today. The other woman, or girl, identified as Mittelt walked forward then turned around to look up to Kagaya's portrait and pouted as she said, Do we really have to open this gateway? Naruto-kun will be angry if that girl stains the temple with blood, and I don't like it when he gets angry. Why don't we just put up the barrier and let Naruto-kun arrive to take care of the ninja outside? Because we have a contract, you blonde bimbo. Said Rainer who continued to speak while glaring at Mittelt, and BTW BTW, don't lock me out of Naruto-kun's room again. Do you have any idea how big this place is? I nearly got lost in there for an hour before I found the elevation door. Azazel pinched the bridge of his nose and looked at Mittelt and Rainer go at each other back and forth before he had enough as he said, "You know what? I'm glad you're both staying here as I just can't deal with all of your bullshit any longer. First, I tell you not to go off trying to steal sacred gear, then you do the total opposite and try to steal every sacred gear in existence. Secondly, I told you not to go anywhere near that girl with the sacred gear that heals anything, then you once again do the total opposite by trying to take it from her and use it for yourselves for reasons I still don't care about. Now, I finally come to find out that Jashin-sama is fully awake and has a caretaker. Then the first thing you three do is molest the poor kid at the first sight of him, chase him around in this temple and then sign yourselves away as his loyal slaves, for which again reasons I don't care about. Sigh. Maybe being around this kid has finally changed you two for the better as you were both nothing but trouble when you were still back at Kuo. Anyways, claps hands, the contract I have signed with Naruto-sama states that if Konoha is to ever face an invasion, I am to open a gateway that will release Jashin-sama's first worshipper who will defend the temple and the villages once she is set free. The Blood Army of Jashin-sama will raise along with her to do her bidding, but the Blood Army will take about 3 years to fully be awakened again, so that will be my other job in the contract to do, which is watching over Jashin-sama's garden in the 33th dimension. However, the reason why you two and myself are tasked to do this is because it takes 3 fallen angels to release a heathen of that power, and I was the only angel back in heaven trusted with the hand signs and incantation to release this heathen. Now will you all just please behave so I can leave this place before anything happens like them noticing I am here. The two ladies blushed when Azazel mentioned what they had done in the other world they previously resided at and cast side glances while furiously blushing at the mentioning of their new love interest Naruto, who had warmed his way into their cold, cruel and empty hearts at the first sight of him on the day of the contract signing between him and Azazel. Once Azazel explained to them the task they were given today, they recomposed themselves with the blushes subsiding as they had serious expressions planted on their faces and nodded as they both exclaimed in unison, "Hi!" and left the temple, then reappeared on the roof. Both of the women grew black wings on their backs, then slowly flew up the sky as they each stood in triangular position with Azazel joining them with his wings out as well, and they all started doing the same hand signs at the same time for 2 minutes. Down below them, the Suna-Oto forces had already stormed their way through the gates of Konoha while fighting some of the Konoha ninja on their way and destroying some of the homes, stores and buildings, which was actually the whole objective of the invasion. Then 148 of them made it to the temple with Kabuto leading them ahead, who was still dressed in the black cloak but with his regular attire underneath it and discarded the mask he had on for his glasses. The right-hand man of Orochimaru walked up the large doors, then tried to push his chakra scalpel right hand through the center, only to see that it did not even make a dent on the doors or try to make a hole through them. Sigh, this isn't going to be as easy as I thought it would be. These doors are clearly made of some type of strong stone that has chakra inside of it, making it nearly indestructible as a way to keep intruders out from breaking in the temple, which might I add has no other doors or windows to enter through. When I was still spying on Naruto-kun, these doors just magically opened up for him without even doing a hand sign or smearing his blood over the doors, which means there has to be some sort of chakra signature sensor somewhere on the doors or the steps behind me, or perhaps an advanced seal that works on a telepathic command. But I still have hunch that this doors must have some type of chakra pathway inside of them similar to a person's chakra network, and if I can just find where to disconnect these doors to the core where the chakra comes from, maybe they can open up and hopefully not self-destruct and create new doors from the old ones. Either way, Orochimaru-sama only wanted to try and see if the normal way of breaking in works for now. After that, he will most likely try something different to go in and out with anything valuable he can find in there. If I report back and tell him that way won't work, he'll try and think of another way in some time later, since the main objective is killing the Sandaime Hokage then capturing Naruto-kun and Sasuke-kun second, but by watching Naruto-kun's fight with the Hyuga, anyone Orochimaru-sama sends to try and fight him will turn up dead anyways. This just leads me to believe he will try something else with Naruto-kun when the time comes. Kabuto then turned to the men before him and said, Orochimaru-sama has given me the objective that these doors need to be destroyed. In order for that to happen, you will all do whatever you can to get rid of these doors. You all have explosion tags and bombs, so make the most of that and anything else you have that will help take these large doors down. But why not just have the Aikibi destroy them? This temple seems kinda hard to break through, was what one of the shinobi standing in front said, only to be met with a chakra scalpel to the head, causing him to collapse on his back already dead from his brain being stabbed by the scalpel. Kabuto looked up to the frightened men and said, You wanna know why? Because a tailed beast bomb from a tailed beast could or could not destroy this entire temple. Now all of you get to work, or you will all be following your little comrade down here. Kabuto hopped away to a northern direction, which is where the Hokage Tower is, and left the men, who quickly got to work on trying to bust open the doors. Back with Azazel and the two fallen angel women being Mittelt and Rainer, they finally stopped at the serpent hand sign. Then in just a second, their entire forms were glowing red, with their eyes all being completely black and their skin also turning black with white lines traveling up to their eyes. They remained silent for a brief 2 minutes, then spoke, with their voices all being a deeper and darker tone. From the ashes of the resurrected. From the bones of the cursed. From the screams of the innocent and the blood of the sinned. The first of the 666 shall bleed in your name, as your blood will be your rage and wrath that will warm the battlefield and scatter across the land as her great avalanche and sandstorm to raise the world to its feet, then down to its knees with your might. When night turns to day, the eye of hell shall shed tears for your petals to kill its mistakes and forsaken its wishes, as the moon will turn a blind eye at your beauty. We call upon the gate of blood to open and release the great blood ghoul and queen of the blood army. Come forth. Tukaa. In the sky just above the three fallen angels, who immediately vanished from sight after the last word of the incantation, a small portal with a black circle surrounding it opened, and what could be seen inside the portal is nothing but blood waiting to be dropped, as the blood looks completely red with black leeches swimming inside of it. The Oto and Suna shinobi working on the door saw this from the shadow it made on them, and they all froze as they waited for something to happen, seeing as the movement of the blood was hypnotizing at first sight, with their senses of danger switching off, leaving the said men to mindlessly look up at the opened portal. In just a split second. Splash. A huge amount of the blood came out spilling from the portal, then directly flew towards the shinobi who were standing at the temple, still looking at the blood flying towards them with empty eyes, as none of them even made a move to run or hide from the falling blood. The blood splashed onto the shinobi and made a hissing sound when in contact with their bodies, as the blood burnt them all like flesh to acid, eating all the flesh and leaving nothing but clean white skeletons behind, with the many shinobi crying and screeching out in pain before they were eaten away by the red blood. The blood then raised up into the air as soon as there was no flesh left to eat, and slowly began to take the form of a young woman, with her right eye having its surla being black with a crimson red iris, and the left socket of her left eye being completely empty. After a full 4 minutes of the blood taking a humanoid form, the blood soon turned to skin, revealing the woman's magnificent naked body, with her legs being very long and smooth going up to her nice and firm buttocks, then showing her smooth curves with her flat stomach and gorgeous C-cup having perky pink nipples, as the woman's face appears to be heart-shaped with a small but cute mouth and nose, and the woman's hair becomes a dark blue color, with some of the hair shaping her face in a bowl-cut manner, with most of her hair forming a large bang closing her empty left eye socket. The woman slowly levitated down to the top of the temple, then looked around at the leftover bones of the shinobi her blood had eaten their flesh from. Her back hunched over, then. Spat. Red large wings came out from her back, with blood spilling everywhere at her feet, as her neck began to have leeches traveling down to her feet, then back to her stomach before they vanished from sight. The woman first had a stoic expression on her face upon looking at the destruction that was happening before her very eye, then cracked a smile as she sensed the presence of her god and savior Jashin, along with the powerful chakra source of her god's master and caretaker, to which she whispered. Soon. She flew off into the direction of the clothing store, then landed right into it as she blasted through the glass of the store. She looked around for a while, then found a white extra large formal shirt which got her to smile as she said to herself. He will like this on me. I hope he does. I have nothing else to wear since Jashin-sama burned all my clothes away. I am nothing as I am naked, but with this feels the fabric of the shirt, I am as open-minded and focused for the present just as Jashin-sama's caretaker is, and I will have a conscience about everything I do just like him. I hope he finds me welcoming. She took the shirt and put it on with her wings subsiding into her back, then the wings returned making holes in the shirt where her wings came out from. She buttoned up the shirt then fixed the collar as she buttoned up the cufflinks at her wrists and walked out the store. Her right ear twitched, then looked to her right to see a fleet of shinobi running for the shinobi academy while they destroyed every shop in their path leaving nothing unturned or unharmed. I need to eat. But with this on, I feel sad if I was to feast on innocent human beings. Jashin-sama's master only wants the wretched sinners of this world to die and leave him in peace, so I will eat them instead. She flew towards the shinobi then landed right in front of them, causing them to halt to a stop. All of the man looked at her with eyes of lust and eye-raping her almost naked form, but those eyes of lust soon turned to stares of horror when she leapt for one of them then bite off the shinobi's right ear and nose as she chewed the flesh and swallowed it down with a gulping sound being clearly heard. She didn't even stop there as her right hand stabbed the man's chest open with her hand capturing his heart then sinking her teeth into the flesh as she savored the blood that came with every bite of the organ before she ate the whole organ finished. The men ran for their lives screaming in terror of the blue-haired woman they called a cannibal monster, but none were able to escape as she got to all of them and ate separate organs from each of them while leaving their brains to be. Once she was done with that, she rubbed her belly sensually as she could feel herself being full from her small lunch of the men who tried to destroy the village of her god's lover and master. Uzumaki. Uzumaki Naruto is the name of Jashin-sama's master. I have already protected the temple, and now I will protect him. Leaving a pile of dead bodies behind, the blue-haired one-eyed woman flew off towards Naruto's signature, and smiled to herself as the many images of his face came to her mind. Naruto. Uzumaki. X. It has been about 30 minutes since the invasion of Oto and Suna started in Konoha, and things were now beginning to go in the favor of Konoha as the evacuation was successful. The snake summons were beaten and defeated by Kakashi, Guy, Asuma and Jiraiya with the toad summons being of assistance and the Oto-Suna forces were finally being reduced to a minimum level with some of them fleeing or rather retreating seeing as they could no longer hope to take on the Konoha forces with their comrades being killed like ants at every step of the way. Sasuke was sent off to the Uchiha compound and guarded by Kakashi to make sure the duck-butt-haired Uchiha was not captured and taken away to Oto since the Sandaime had finally figured it out why his treacherous student wanted the Uchiha in the first place. The injured were being taken care of, and now we see Naruto standing above an exhausted and unconscious Gaara who fought Naruto for the past half an hour using Shukaku's chakra and giving the Aikibi full control which was still nothing compared to the last remaining Uzumaki. Naruto crouched down, then looked up to a tree on his left and said, "I know you're there, Tamari-san. You can come out now as I promise I won't hurt you or your brother here." The blonde Suna Kunoichi hopped down from a tree on Naruto's left side, and reluctantly stepped forward as she said to Naruto, Please. Don't kill him. Gaara and Kankuro are all I have left in this world now. I know that he may be sadistic and insane, but he's still my brother. I have tried a lot to reach out to him, but every time I would, another wall would raise up when I would break down another just to get to him. He wasn't supposed to be like this in the first place. It was our stupid father who got that demon sealed into him, then treated him like a freak all his life because he was afraid of him. Gaara grew up on his own, feared by the people of the village who shunned him away and drove him to this. I know that there isn't much hope for him to be fine, but I still want to try and help him get past this and be the person our mother wanted him to be. Naruto looked up to Tamari and gave her one of his true smiles and responded to her. Believe me, I know what he's been through. All that stuff I said back at the stadium when I was fighting Neji, it's all true, but I can tell Gaara has been through a lot worse in his life, as I can see he has lost the ability to trust and care for anyone. All I am doing is helping him by severing the Aikibi's influence on him for now. The reason why he became crazy is that this seal wasn't made well and it's very loose, giving the Aikibi an advantage to badly affect Gaara's mind state, causing him to be like this. Once I fasten up this seal properly, Gaara will be much better, but it will be up to you and Kankuro-san to take care of him and mend his mind and soul back together. My help with the seal is only providing you with bandages and some ointment to heal his wounds. You and your brother will have to treat them all as time goes by. After a few minutes of working on the seal, Naruto was finally done with it and walked away from Gaara as he said to his fellow blonde, "There, all done. Grins, you guys should probably get going before anyone else finds you. You brother isn't far from here, so I'd hurry if I were you." "Thanks, Naruto-san," said Temari as she picked up her brother, then said to Naruto, "For what it's worth, I'm really sorry our village did this to Konoha. If there is anything you need from us, we'll help you in any way we can," then hopped off in the direction where Kankuro is, leaving Naruto to himself. In a tree just behind Naruto, a mysterious Anbu wearing a white mask with the Kenji fur, was watching Naruto closely as he was holding some type of syringe on his left hand while his right was pressing the ear speaker on his right ear. "Remember, make sure he doesn't detect you, and incapacitate him with that sleeping injection. Nothing else can work on him, so that syringe is my last resort to bringing him here to the base for further experimentation." "Understood. Danzo-sama." The white-masked Anbu silently jumped out of the tree, then leapt forward to Naruto, only to be caught in mid-air by the red-winged one-eyed woman, who caught him by biting the right side of his neck hard, then grabbing his shoulder with her hands. Naruto turned and looked up to see this, then eye widened and blushed at seeing the Anbu being bitten by a mysterious woman, who was barely wearing anything except for a white long-sleeve formal shirt which showed Naruto every inch of what's between her legs underneath the shirt. The blue-haired woman with red wings landed with the bitten victim into some bushes, and all Naruto could hear is the sound of chewing with gulping, causing him to eye widen again at understanding full well what the woman was doing. "She's eating that root, Anbu. Matt, eating. That must means she is." After 5 minutes, the woman came out from the bushes with a little blood on her mouth area, then walked up to Naruto as she bowed to him and said, "My apologies for letting you see me feast on a fleshing, Naruto-sama. My name is Tuka Otsutsuki, and I am the daughter and first creation of Jashin-sama. I am the first worshipper and soldier of the Jashinist religion, as I am the Ghoul Queen and second general of Jashin-sama's blood army. I'm happy to be finally free and once again doing Jashin-sama's bidding while praising her name and yours as I feast on the flesh of the damned and sinned, and have their souls ripped apart by the holy scythe of Jashin-sama." Naruto, who was shocked at first, later began to look at the now identified Tuka and said, "You are Ya-chan's creation, her firstborn. You don't look like anything she has described you to be. If Jashin-sama has told you that I am a merciless bloodthirsty monster who feels no emotions for its victims or anyone besides Jashin-sama, then you should know that what she said is true. However, my ideals along with my appetite normally depend on what I wear and what are the ideals she has. Before you found her, and before her mother laid her to sleep, Jashin-sama truly lived up to her title as the god of blood and destruction almost everywhere in the cosmos, even with the members of her family. When her mother would use the powers of the chakra fruit to stop all of the wars between humanity, Jashin-sama was there painting the battlefield with the blood of those who would ever come to try and stand up to her mother Kagaya Otsutsuki, or her father. Even before that, Jashin-sama was known to be a god of calamity in other galaxies, as many civilizations that could not be reasoned with or controlled would fall to non-existence and massacred at her power and wrath. She created me to become one of her 2 most dangerous weapons when her blood army came to defend the kingdom of death many millennia ago. I was her tool for killing, and her paintbrush to use to paint the beauty of blood and war everywhere war she would go to, as her presence brought nothing but endless death and necessary bloodshed. Me and my brother wore red clothing in that time, and I was known to be a demon without an inch of sense or care for any other person besides my creator, and my younger brother Alucard. I killed anything my eye would see, and I wouldn't stop eating the flesh of my victims until there was nothing left of them. When Jashin-sama went to sleep, she had all my clothes burnt away and sent me to a dimension she personally created for me to reside in and stay there until she would be awakened by the one her mother and father deemed to be Jashin-sama's lover, master and caretaker, and the one who would hold the true everlasting grace and power of Jashin-sama's late father. Anyo, does the same rule her parents made apply to you and your brother too? Naruto asked, and Tuka nodded as she said, those who fall under Jashin-sama and were created or are in gratitude to her, will praise you too since you are her object of fear and affection. Jashin-sama grows stronger every second as we, the great and bloody heathens all pray to her even in her sleep, and her power flows through to you too when she gets it from our praises and sacrifices all done in her name. It is why she has dubbed you the being who will take up the natural essence of her father and be the greatest being that ever lived. A being of good who controls evil. Though, I am surprised that you do not seem baffled or unconscious at my honey scent mixed with blood or my lack of clothing that is very much revealing to your supernatural eyes. Am I not attractive to you, Naruto-sama? Am I ugly in your eyes? Tuka wiped the teardrop away, then took Naruto's right hand and brought it to her right, pushing his fingers deep into the mound of flesh where her heart is located in her body. Naruto blushed heavily at this, but felt a heartbeat under the mound of flesh, causing him to look up to Tuka, who said, that heart you feel, wasn't beating before. Being a monster who doesn't feel meant that I shouldn't have a beating heart. But because of how Jashin feels about you and how she values your ideals and her caring for you and everyone else you care about, she has grown to be more emotional than she was before, and this also affects me. It's like an emotional connection between a puppet and a puppet master. Oh okay, takes backhand look. Tuka-chan, how about we go to the temple and you can tell me more about yourself there? Maybe then I can pick out some proper clothing for you instead of this, said Naruto. Tuka nodded in agreement, then her red wings flipped out from her back as she asked him, would you like to sit on my back and fly to the temple? Jashin-sama says that I fly like a dragon chasing the coldest wind in the time of heat, and my back is the most comfortable thing she has ever sat on. Smiles nervously with a sweat drop. Actually, Tuka-chan, I'll take us there without anyone having to see you in your current state. I'm not exactly comfortable with you walking or flying around in that. Now grab a hold of my shoulder so we can leave. I doubt that will be the last attempt Danzo will try on me, and next time, there won't be a next time, said Naruto as he narrowed his eyes in the direction of what's left of the remains of the root nin tasked to kidnap him. Tuka placed her right hand on Naruto's shoulder, and with a matter of seconds they left in a black flash, leaving no trace of them behind. Ko. How long have we been in here? For about 30 minutes, Sarutobi. Have you tried to kill Orochimaru yet? No. It seems no matter what I do, he always seems to be one step closer to me in finding a way to get rid of him. Enma has managed to hide the Kusangi in this dampened forest made by Hashirama-sensei, but Orochimaru is currently fighting 3 of my shadow clones as we speak. Do you need more chakra? No. I know. We need to end this now as this battle has gone on long enough. If I can't kill Orochimaru, then I will at least try to fatally injure him. I will need your help with this, Ko. Inside the barrier, hiding in a very dense forest made from a wood release jutsu, is Hiruzen and Kaharu as their fight between Orochimaru is still happening as they speak, and now drawing close to an end with the Shidaime and Nidaime Hokage being successfully defeated. Kaharu, still dressed in the female Anbu attire with no shoes on, reached for a small scroll in her back pocket and unsealed its contents, which happened to be a mask from the Uzumaki shrine. While I was training back the temple alongside Enko-sama and Naruto-sama, I was trained to use this mask without having to feel immobilized or slowed down by the effects of the Shinigami's suffocating presence and killer intent. I was using this just now to send both the Shadaime and Tobarama-sensei to the Shinigami's stomach. If you need my assistance in injuring your student, I already have an idea that could stop him from using jutsu for the time being before he transfers his soul into another body, just as you were told by Jiraiya. I see, you want to take his arms away from him. Smirks. I see you are finally able to think on your feet, Monkey-san. Smirks. You need to do a ninja art that blinds his sense of sight for a few seconds, and I will do the rest. With a single nod, Hiruzen hopped out the forest, then appeared beside his clones with a tired Orochimaru standing before them and said, Orochimaru, this fight has continued long enough, and it is time for me to rectify the mistake I have done by you. You talk as if you have some sort of an advantage over me, sensei, but I can see you have no other options in trying to kill me. However, I have countless other ways to take down an old monkey like yourself. You think that staff of yours can hide my kusangi from me? Said Orochimaru, who cackled menacingly while holding his head, then held out his left hand to his left side. In a matter of seconds, his blade came back flying into his possession, and a poof of smoke could be heard somewhere in the dense forest, meaning that Hiruzen's staff has returned to Makai to heal, since it could no longer help in the battle against his pedophile treacherous student. Foo. Do you still think you have a chance against me, old man? Said Orochimaru. Hiruzen gave his former student a stern gaze and responded not even a second later, chances are never given, but they are only made and taken. I had so many chances with you, and I missed many. But I will be assured that one day you will fall for your crimes against Konoha and all of humanity, and I believe that you will not see the day of your death coming, Orochimaru. The three clones of the slightly winded Sandaime Hokage poofed away, then he started to do hand signs and exclaimed, Ninja art, souring darkness jutsu. Before Orochimaru could stop the Sandaime from executing the jutsu, all he could see was darkness, but he could hear the faint sounds of footsteps with the sound of leaves blowing from the trees, and he could very much smell the odor around him, meaning that all his other senses still worked, but only his sense of sight was gone. Taking away my sight will only hinder me slightly, you old fool. But I can still sense your chakra signature. I know where you are, and I don't need my eyes to kill an old bat like yourself, sensei. Foo. It seems like the signature of your old teammate has vanished, meaning she must have died by now. You are all alone now, Sarutobi-sensei, just like you always have been, said Orochimaru with an evil smirk, threatening to tear his pale face in half. He felt Hiruzen's chakra spike behind him, then jumped out of the way as a fireball came past, then exploded into the trees, starting a forest fire. Just as he was about to speak again, he felt some sort of killer intent that was trying to suffocate him. Then he felt cold hands reach into his torso, making the pale snake Sanin shiver as he could feel his very soul being violated, with his arms going a little numb. The darkness before his eyes was soon gone, revealing Udatane now standing right in front him, wearing a mask with a tall and monstrous transparent being hovering behind her as her two hands were reaching inside of him. He could feel a sharp pain in his arms and tried to move them, only to feel that he was slowly losing the feeling of his arms. He grunted and glared at the former village elder before him and yelled at her, what are you doing? Taking away the one thing you can't achieve, you foolish dream without, said Udatane, giving a super stern gaze, and didn't even look a bit tired or winded at her constant use of chakra against the reanimated Shadaime, and now connecting herself with the Shinigami to seal away his arms into the said being's belly. His grip on the kusangi loosened, making the sword fall to the ground, but motioned it to stab Udatane with only 2 fingers controlling the poisonous blade. Squeen ch. The blade went right through Udatane and made a hole where her heart is, which is just at her right, causing Orochimaru to smirk, believing that he was finally able to kill her once and for all with a simple move of stabbing her heart, of which he was sure couldn't regenerate like the fingers she bit off. However, he was still losing feeling in his arms, and the smirk was turned upside down, gritting his teeth in pain as he felt his arms completely leaving him. He looked up to see the hole in Udatane's chest patch itself right up like there was never a wound there, and she removed the mask from her face, causing the death-like aura around her to leave with the transparent being hovering behind her to leave as well. You really don't pay attention to the things that are right in front of you, Snake Boy. No matter what you do to me, I cannot be killed by a blade, by poison or any other way you can think of killing me. With just my blood alone, my body can regenerate itself back and I won't feel a single inch of pain. Darn it. Darn it all ka. Tayuya, Sakin, Ukin, Jirobo. Drop the barrier now and take me back to Oto this instant. The barrier dropped down and the 4 teens came to Orochimaru's aid with the fat-looking one helping him up and said to the others, "We gotta leave now before those Anbu arrive. Orochimaru-sama looks hurt and we gotta hurry as fast as we can." Quote. Orochimaru glared daggers at a calm Udatane with a fuming expression planted on his look of pain sketched across his face and said to her, You and that blasted old fool will pay for this. You haven't harmed the last of me. The Uchiha will be mine. And so will that bastard child who you call your master. I will kill you, Kaharu Udatane, if it's the last thing I do. I am afraid I will become deaf. Therefore, I will be hearing the last of you soon. Orochimaru narrows eyes. Slither away while you still can, that it was what you are truly best at. I hope to cross paths with you again so I can finish off your pathetic existence, and free the many souls you have robbed their goodness in life from. I will end you, for Anko-sama, was what Udatane said with Hirsuen now standing beside her, and Orochimaru fled the scene while looking at his former sensei and his teammate in anger of him of not being able to win the fight against the two, but knew that another day will come for him to take them on again and he will, in his words, be more immortal than he ever was and kill the both of them without hesitation. Do you think it wise for him to leave, Ko? With your Sharingan, you can kill him while he is still weak. I don't know why, but I feel like this really isn't the time and place for killing him. I believe it is my sense of pride as Naruto-sama's servant that I want to fight him at his best and not when he is a limping and wounded dog. Either way, Konoha is safe again, but this should be a lesson to these shinobi and kunoichi that they have been lowering their guards too much to allow the enemy to hide in plain sight and read Konoha like an open book. That is most true, Ko. Maybe the next Hokage and the shift in political power happening soon can make this village reach its peak once again. Oh, it will, but that will only happen when Naruto-sama cleanses the elemental nations of all hatred and tyranny. And that within itself is a never-ending process, as the cycle of hatred is something that is a part of human nature. Chakra or no chakra, Chuckles, I still cannot get over the fact that you truly care for the boy now, Ko. But it seems that he unknowingly changes the people around him, and even those who have lost the ability to feel, trust, and care for others. You of all people should know that, Ko. Indeed, Sarutobi smiles. I am his victim of change, but I am glad to be by his side every day. Once Orochimaru and his teenage guards were out of sight, 4 Anbu appeared before the Sandaime and were about to chase Orochimaru and his guards but were stopped by Hiruzen, who said, "Do no attempt to go after him. Let him leave. He is already not worth the killing as he can't do anything for himself anymore. He is far beyond arresting, and only ending his work and existence is the answer to the question of his life." The Anbu nodded at him, but still stood before him as one of them said, "Hokage-sama, the invasion was successfully derailed and the Suna-Odo forces have been taken care of. Jiraiya-sama and the other Junin are still taking care of the remaining snake summons and there are few that have been injured, but they are being cared for as we speak, and the evacuation was a success as no civilians were harmed or killed in the event of the invasion. A few buildings have been knocked down and there was an attempt of breaking into your office. We had managed to stop the suspect before he could take anything, but we were not able to apprehend him. Great work, Osushi Ox. Konoha stands tall again for yours and everybody's great efforts today in making sure we all see tomorrow but learn from yesterday to keep the present. Sigh, I am getting too old for this shit, said Hiruzen, who walked over to the edge of the roof and folded his arms over his chest. Udatane walked up to him and said, "You were already old when the Yondaime Hokage and Kushina-sama passed. Hokage-sama. There was a brief moment of silence for a few minutes, but it soon ended when Hiruzen smiled as he responded to Udatane. Today will be known as the day Konoha's will of fire burnt brightly in its hour of darkness, and this will be my last time defending this village as its Hokage. Tomorrow will be a new day that marks the end of the storm and the rays of the sun. Again, the moment of silence returned as Hiruzen smiled at hearing the cheers of the people in the village and the sound of battle coming to an end, meaning that Konoha is once again standing tall and proud from an enemy that has tried to take it down. Udatane was smiling too, but her smile came from the thoughts of her blonde master and the clan she was now proud to say she belonged to and helped defend its land. This won't be the last time Konoha faces danger, but I now know that after every fight and battle it goes through, this land will get stronger and stronger, and Naruto-sama will soon be the symbol of this village and country and always be there to defend it from any evil that tries to spread across it. For now, he dreams of being Hokage, but with his ever-growing power and ability to touch anything empty and void into positive gold, he will be the one to take the name and title of Jashin-sama's father and blow down the cycle of hatred in this world and possibly others, if not the entire plane of existence itself. The journey has just begun, and it will only get more difficult from here on. But I will always stand besides him through thick and thin, and be one of his women that will be willing to do anything for him when the time comes. Naruto-sama. 2 weeks later. Konohagakure no Sato, the Hokage Tower. In the Hokage's office, Naruto and Shikamaru were now standing in front of the Hokage's desk with Kakashi, Jiraiya, Shukaku, Ino and Choji standing behind the two, all smiling proudly for their teammate and friend, as Naruto and Shikamaru were the only ones to pass the Chunin exams and get the promotion to Chunin. This year's Chunin exams have been anything but normal. With the second stage and last stage being disrupted, the both of you and your comrades have showed determination and dedication to continuing in protecting Konoha's will of fire while still learning from it as you go. Shikamaru Nara, your intelligence has helped you see past the many errors of what to face in the battlefield and save your fellow brethren from defeat and death many times over. Even though you may have your clan's apathy and lack of motivation, you do know when to raise above the challenges ahead, and move forward to face what lies ahead with a plan already in mind. Naruto Uzumaki, you of all your fellow comrades have experienced the most in your short time of being a genin, and it is for that reason that your experiences have been shared amongst them. You were placed in a team that clearly seemed like it will fall any second and end before it would begin, but you still made the most of your teammates even when they didn't want to work with you. You have unlocked your clan's true potential, and we have all seen that you are well capable of fighting for what's right and still being able to change the very same enemies you come across. I have received word that Sunagakure no Sato would kindly like to apologize for aiding Orochimaru in the attempt to invade Konoha, and will help pay for whatever damages they have caused to the village. They also told me the Ikibi Jinchuki Gaara has made a dramatic change in his life, and it is all because of you, Naruto, for setting him straight and see that even though he has suffered a great deal of pain at such a young age, he is now well able to forgive others and share his pain with his siblings just as you have shared your pain with Anko, Kakashi and your other loved ones. The Sandaime stood up from his chair, then walked to the clothing drawer of the office to take out 4 Chunin flak jackets. It is with great pleasure and joy that I, Hiruzen Sarutobi the Sandaime Hokage, promote Naruto Uzumaki and Shikamaru Nara to official Chunin of Konohagakure no Sato. The Sandaime smiled to the 2 young men before him and handed them their flak jackets, to which they bowed in thanks while saying their thanks to Hiruzen. The Sandaime then turned to Ino and Choji and continued. While the both of you and Team 8 have not passed the Chunin exams, the Council and myself have acknowledged your efforts during the time of the invasion to help evacuate the civilians and keep everyone alive with your other comrades. It is for that reason why the both of you and Hinata Hyuga, Kiba Inuzuka and Shino Aburame are promoted to official Chunin of Konoha as well. Ino screamed in celebration of the promotion and cried happily, while Choji also exclaimed his joy, but then said something about, the higher the pay means more food to buy, which got him a bonk on the head by Ino, with everyone laughing at Ino and Choji's antics. Asuma, Ino, Choji, Shikamaru and his father all left the office and said their goodbyes, only leaving Naruto, Jiraiya and Kakashi with Hiruzen there. Naruto turned to the Sandaime and asked, "So what's gonna happen to Sakura and Sasuke?" After a week of the invasion, the Fire Daimyo was here to address the issue of the civilian council members, and told the village that anything those people have fortified, bribed or influenced was to be taken away with immediate effect or reversed. So when those civilians were arrested and executed for their crimes, all their wrongdoing on the village was investigated then corrected. Sakura Haruno's file, according to Iruka's report, shows that even though she had spent a full 4-year term in the academy, she has learned absolutely nothing and never wrote a single written test or spar with others or show any progress as a kunoichi whatsoever. She passed the genin exams with the help of her father, who in this case bribed Mizuki and blackmailed Iruka into letting her pass the day before the exams were held. Because of this, Sakura Haruno will be dropped from Konoha's shinobi system, and will be under constant watch for 8 hours of the day since her parents were involved in the crimes of the previous batch of the civilian council, rendering her to be an Operon. With Sasuke Uchiha, he is to remain a genin and be transferred to one of the new genin teams that will be made next January since Team 7 is now disbanded. That is actually some good news. "So when do I get to take that hat from you, Ji-san?" said Naruto, only to be met with laughs from both Jiraiya and Hiruzen. This greatly confused Naruto, who said, "No, seriously. I don't think you have any other candidates to take the position as Hokage, and you have already announced your retirement to the village. Is it me? Or have you found someone else to be the Godime? And please don't say it's Konohamaru. Actually, Naruto-kun, it is not up to me to decide who takes the position after me, as that decision is made by the council and the Fire Daimyo. They are still making up a short list and will decide who gets to be the Godime Hokage. Demo, you can still keep your fingers crossed if that is what you are doing behind you back." Before the Sandaime could continue speaking to Naruto, Jashin, who was dressed in a pair of black shorts with a white tank top, still wearing no shoes, you guys will probably get used to her not wearing shoes all the time soon. And again, I do not have a foot fetish, appeared before them and said, "Sorry to enter, oh. It's over. Anyways, Naruto-sama, Yuta-chan has sent me to come and get you since the party has already started and the exquisite buffet she has made is really starting to grow spider webs since no one won't eat before you do, and oh, Rainer Heim and Mittel-chan said they both have an awesome gift to give you tonight and they can't wait any longer for you. So you need to come home, NOOOOOOOOOW. And Hiruzen-kun." Jashin walked up the desk and playfully glared at the Sandaime as she said, speaks in New York Italian accent, "Remember the deal, me and you have, alright. I get you the water, and you make Hidan go ka-boom. Kabish. Quote. Quote. Hi, Jashin-sama. Without even saying goodbye to his sensei, godfather and the Sandaime, Naruto was pulled in a hug and vanished from the office with red symbols circling him and Jashin as their forms left the room in a white light. "Yeah, I gotta do some stuff back at the apartment that needs my attention, and then I have to meet Guy for the weekly challenge. I'll see you soon, Jiraiya-sama, Hokage-sama," said Kakashi, who left the room in a poof of smoke. Jiraiya turned to his sensei with a sigh and said, "Well, it looks like things are gonna be getting better around here, sensei." "It does seem that way, Jiraiya. But who knows what kind of challenges and trials lie ahead, as the future will always be a mystery, like a mist-filled road. I can't help but feel that Naruto will be the center of a lot of things that will happen here in the village, the country and possibly the elemental nations, if not the world as a whole. It sure does seem that way, doesn't it? Sigh, his parents would be proud if they saw him today, especially his mother Kushina. She always had big plans for Naruto, and now, it seems like they are all set in motion, with the first one being a success. Well, I gotta leave, sensei. I'll be back to get Naruto when you announce who will be the Godime. Demo, you already know who it is since you didn't want to take the position. Yeah, well, I'll start searching for her when I get the chance, and that's why I'm saying the Gaki should tag along when you give me the mission to go and get her to come back. Besides, you know she won't come back since the civilians and that man lied to her saying that Naruto died on the day of the Kyuubi attack along with Kushina. Well, I'll see ya soon, sensei. Jiraiya hopped out the window and reappeared on an orange giant toad which hopped away. There was silence in the office as the Sandaime looked at the paperwork in front of him, then reached for his drawer to take out his pipe and start smoking. Single quote comma dot. Life, it is a journey we all walk, and a journey that is far more stranger than anything we humans can comprehend. I hope Naruto's life will continue to change others as his journey will be the strangest and possibly the hardest of them all. The Sandaime stood up from his chair then turned to look at the moon that was now settling up in the sky and with the sun setting down. I may not know who you are, or what kind of person you may be, but I know that you are watching over Naruto as we speak and you will continue to watch over him as he faces his hardships and triumphant over them. You and his parents will continue to guide him on this path we all call life. Kagaya Otsutsuki. I desperately pray that you do so, for tomorrow is never promised, and Naruto is yet to fight the many odds he will face. Sigh.